We are back at it again, guys. I don't even know what main episode we're at right now. It might be episode 14, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, you'll find out when you see the title of this. But, anyways, we're back. We're back with the main episode. And I thought that this was only right to do when there is a very big football game tomorrow. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Annabelle. You're listening to the Ace for Waves podcast. It's my podcast where I sometimes mainly talk about sports, what's happening in the sports world. If you listen to it on Spotify, or other times I like to talk about other fun things, just labeled with different segments. But you'll get the gist of it when if you watch other content that I like to make and put out. But Super Bowl 59 is tomorrow, as of me recording this and most likely uploading this. So if you're watching, if you're listening, you get to hear me talk all about the Super Bowl. And for people who have watched videos of mine before, listened to videos, whatever, you will know that this is how this podcast actually started. Last year, I know I wanted to talk stuff about sports, and with the help from one of my awesome professors who kind of gave me the push and the edge to do it, here I am right now, kind of coming back to full circle with how this whole podcast originated and started. So, going from Super Bowl 58, talking about it for the first time, and now here we are, Super Bowl 59, the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles. I have some stuff that I want to discuss today, stuff that we will most definitely talk about. But first, I want to plug in a little special video that will probably come out tomorrow on Super Bowl Sunday. Tomorrow, February 9th, is the 1 year anniversary of the podcast, of the channel. So I'm going to create a special video just for that, kind of celebrating 1 year, maybe talking about the process of creating a podcast, how I like to decide content, some of my favorite videos that I've made so far, etc. And just be a little celebration for me because I really enjoy doing this. It kind of gets busy at times because I still am a student first. So I always have to make sure that academics are my number one priority. And then comes a job, then comes classes, comes other extracurricular stuff within the school. And then this side little fun project, as I like to call it, is probably fifth or sixth on that list. But still something whenever I have time to do, I like to do. And I would like to be a little bit more consistent. So hopefully it will be more consistent within the next months if I can figure out a routine and a schedule. But pushing that all aside for a moment here, we're here to talk about one thing and one thing only, and that is the Super Bowl. If you don't know what the Super Bowl is, the Super Bowl is arguably one of the biggest game of the NFL season. It's played at the end of the regular season. So the NFL has a regular season of 18 weeks and 18 games. I say 18 games when in reality it's 18 weeks, 17 games. Each team gets a bye week where they don't have to play a game for a week. They can reset, relax, focus on resting, getting their bodies healthy, etc. So there's 18 weeks in a season. All 32 teams play 17 games, and they usually come out with the schedule around this time. I believe maybe even last month they released the schedule. So they know opponents way in advance, so you can start preparing for that. The season kicks off in September and goes from September to the beginning of January. After January, when the regular season ends, the best teams or the better teams then move on to the playoffs. And the playoffs are set up as the two best teams in the AFC conference and the NFC conference get an automatic bye if you're the 1 seed. If you are a 2 seed through I want to say a 10 seed. I could be wrong. You'd have to fact check that. I believe if you are a 2 seed through a 10 seed, then you have to play in the wild card. And whoever wins the wild card of those teams moves on to the divisional rounds, where you face the number 1 seed and all the rest of the teams. And then you move on to the championship game. And if you win the championship game, that decides who gets to go to the Super Bowl. And now I'm just realizing that I said 10 seeds. It goes, the lowest you can get is an 8 seed, I realized, because it would technically be the divisional rounds have 4 teams in there, and then you have the first other team. So there's technically 8 seeds. So if I said 10 seeds, I already apologize. And I got my facts wrong. So the Chiefs got the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. They only played in the divisional round, where they faced the Ravens, who lost to the Chiefs. And then, did the Ravens lose to the Chiefs? The Ravens didn't even lose to the Chiefs. I don't even think so. So I'm getting my facts wrong again, guys. I don't know what is happening to me right now. The Ravens did not play the Chiefs. The Ravens played the Bills, and the Bills had to go play the Chiefs in the AFC round. Yes, so the Ravens played the Bills in the divisional round. The Ravens lost, the Bills won, and then the Bills had to play the Chiefs in the AFC championship game, and the Chiefs beat the Bills. So that's how they got to the Super Bowl. With the Eagles, however, the Eagles were not the number 1 overall seed in the playoffs. That went to the Detroit Lions. I don't remember who the Eagles played in the first round of the wild card. I'm sorry. I want to say it was maybe the Rams, I think. Fact check me on that. But the Eagles did have to play the Commanders in the NFC championship game, and the Eagles won. So that was their road to the Super Bowl. So that's kind of like a mini recap of the playoffs. I know people were really hoping to see Lamar Jackson go to the Super Bowl for the first time. That ultimately didn't happen because the Bills and the Ravens had to play each other. People were hoping that the Bills would make the playoffs with Josh Allen, just so we wouldn't have to keep seeing the same team make it to the Super Bowl every year. And ultimately, that fell short as well. But moving that all aside, let's talk about some of the team's statistics, because that's very important in context with my point that I'm about to bring up next. The Chiefs' overall record at the end of the regular season was 15-2. Now, there are only 2 losses. They lost to the Bills by 1. What week they lost, I truly don't remember. But the Bills were 8-2 at the time when they beat the Chiefs. So they lost to a good Bills team. And this same Bills team finished the season 13-4. So they were 8-2 at the time. With the win over the Chiefs, they became 9-2. And like I said, they beat the Chiefs by 1. So the Bills were really good then, still were really good at the end of the regular season. And then they lost to the Broncos, their last game, week 18, 38-0. It was a blowout. The Chiefs starters were resting. They didn't play in that game, but I still think it was a bit of I shouldn't say a bit of a disappointment, but I did expect more from the Chiefs there, and getting blown out 38-0 to a 10-7 Broncos team who did advance to the playoffs. They lost in the first round, but they still advanced to the playoffs. That, I don't know. I think it kind of shifted my view on the Chiefs a little bit there, but we'll leave that aside. Now with the Eagles had a 14-3 overall record. Their losses came to the Falcons in week 2, and they did lose by 1. They lost to the Buccaneers 33-7, and then they lost to the Commanders towards the end of the regular season. So they have 3 losses. The Commanders made it to the NFC Championship game, so I would say that they're good. The Bucs finished the season 10-7. I believe they did make it to the playoffs, and I think they lost in the first round as well. But the Bucs were 10-7, not bad, same record as the Broncos. And then the Falcons finished 8-9, so not good, but not bad. So pretty much in the middle. When we look at the 2 teams and their losses, I'd say the Chiefs' only bad loss out of the 2 was to the Broncos, and only because they scored 0 points and allowed 38 points. That's like the only bad loss that I could think of. And again, losing to a Bills team who made it to the AFC Championship game as well. That's a good team. And if you're going to lose games at times, and you just have to come to accept that. I know the Chiefs are a great team. They're superior, but even they are prone to losing games as well. Same with the Eagles. The Eagles have arguably the best package when it comes to performance level and when it comes to players, which we will talk about pretty soon. I'd say the Eagles only have 1 bad loss as well, and that is to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when you lose 33-9. I know they lost to an 8-9 Falcons team, but it was early in the season. They lost by 1 point, but in the way how they lost in fashion too was kind of, I don't know, a little bit iffy. You argue that there are some calls that weren't made, etc. And even with the Commanders as well, the Commanders made it farther than most other teams in the NFC. So I can't really say that's a bad loss when 3 of these teams made it to the postseason. And I say 3. Well, 2 of those teams made it to the postseason. The Falcons didn't make it. Same with the Chiefs. The 2 teams that they lost to made it to the postseason. So you can kind of see the correlation there. I will dispute the fact that I believe the Eagles had a bit of a easier road to the playoffs here. And I say that I don't say that to be mean, and I don't say that to sound biased. But when we look at the quarterbacks in the NFC, they're not really as superior as we make out the quarterbacks in the AFC to be. Now, Jalen Hurts is a really great quarterback, and there's no denying that. He's very mobile. He can 100% run the football, and he can throw the football. And he has a really good arm, too. So I'm not saying that he's a bad quarterback at all. But there's only, I'd say right now at this moment, there's only like 4 quarterbacks in the NFC that I feel comfortable putting at like a top tier. One of those quarterbacks is Jalen Hurts. Another quarterback for me is Matthew Stafford. Now, I know that the Rams lost in the postseason. I know that they had a worse record than the Eagles, but you have to remember, Matthew Stafford has been to a Super Bowl before, and he's the most recent quarterback in the NFC to have won a Super Bowl. 4 of the last 5 seasons, I believe, has all been the AFC and winning the Super Bowl, and that's been with the Chiefs. And I say 4 out of 5, it might have been the last 3 of the 4 seasons or whatever. But Matthew Stafford is the only recent quarterback in the NFC to have won a Super Bowl there. It's been all AFC teams past. Another quarterback that I would put up there is, I know he's a rookie. I know he's in his first year. There's still room for him to grow, but you can't argue what Jan Daniels has done for the Commanders. He is elevating that team. He has a very strong arm. He's very conscious with the football and his style of play. He's also very calm. You don't see him get under distress much. He's very calm, very collected. He's very mature for a player his age. And like I said, he is a rookie. If he did what he did his rookie season, I'm excited to see how Dan Quinn can develop and coach him into his second season as well. He's going to be a very, very great quarterback and a really elite one if he keeps it up. And then finally, I know this quarterback had a bit of a down year, but we can't rule out Brock Purdy and the 49ers. I say Brock is in kind of a similar position as Jan Daniels was his first season. Brock has had a very great season coming in to fill in for an injured starting quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo back in 2022. He took that Trey Lance / Jimmy Garoppolo led team to the NFC Championship game where he got injured. I argue that if he had not gotten injured and the 49ers hadn't gone through 4 quarterbacks in one season in which they saw Christian McCaffrey playing the quarterback position in the NFC Championship in 2022, if Brock had gotten injured, I think the 49ers would have gone to the Super Bowl that year in place of the Eagles. That's just my opinion. We'll never know if that's true or not. Maybe if Brock was healthy, they still would have lost. We'll never know. But that aside, Brock is still a very great quarterback. I know he has weapons and such. I know he has a good running back in Christian McCaffrey, and he has George Kittle and Kyle Juszczyk, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and yada, yada, yada. But he's still really good. Brock has been in the top 5 in quarterback statistics now for the past 2 seasons, and for good reason. I have no bad things to say other than the fact that, yes, while this season might have been a down year for the 49ers due to all injuries and such, you can't use that as reason for why they weren't as good as they were the past few seasons. That's not really an excuse. The Detroit Lions had more injuries than the 49ers, and they made it to the playoffs. So I guess we can leave that there. But back to quarterbacks. Those are 4 quarterbacks that I would feel comfortable saying are on top of their game right now for the NFC. Maybe you could throw Sam Darnold in, but I don't know. I think I'd have to give it another year before I put Sam Darnold into that category too. Trying to think Baker Mayfield, I think you maybe can make an argument for him as well, but I'm not comfortable if I would put him in like the top 3 or 4 if I'm going based off of that. Dak Prescott too. I know Dak's a great quarterback, but with an injury but him getting injured definitely put a taint in the Dallas Cowboys season last year. The Cowboys were not good. I have to say it. If I can move, pushing the Super Bowl side of talk for a minute, the Cowboys were not good last season, and Cowboys fans have to realize that and accept that. They were not good. Losing your starting quarterback sucks. I get it. I know. When your star quarterback goes down to a season-ending injury, that's awful. But it's not like the Cowboys were winning every single game with Dak as their quarterback. They should have gotten blown out by the Ravens in week 2. It was a closer game than what was to be expected, but they should have gotten blown out by the Ravens. They got absolutely blown out by the Saints. They got blown out by the Texans. I don't know if Dak played against the Texans or not. That might have been Cooper Rush. But The offense just wasn't there. Same with the defense. The defense wasn't there at times, and it just looked all sloppy and whatever. Dak did have a great game against the Steelers. That was a good win that they picked up. But from then on forward, it just felt like it went downhill. And I don't say that as an insult to all the Cowboys players, because I'm sure they're all great players and wonderful people. But the coaching was questionable. The locker room dynamics just felt off. It didn't feel like they were all united as one team and shared the same sentiments and values as one team should have. It was just a roller coaster of a season for them. So there you got my view of the Dallas Cowboys there. But let's talk back. I'll bring the conversation back now to what I was talking about in quarterbacks. Those are the four quarterbacks that I feel comfortable saying are on top of their game right now in the NFC. And there's not much competition there. It's Jalen Hurts for me. It's Matthew Stafford. It's Jaden Daniels. And I would throw Brock Purdy in there. But like I said, with Sam Darnold, with Baker Mayfield, you can maybe swap those three out. And maybe there's quarterbacks that I missed again. So we'll say top three quarterbacks. But when you look at the AFC, you have Patrick Mahomes, who people are already saying is the GOAT. You have Joe Burrow, very great quarterback, an elite quarterback, gone to a Super Bowl before, and actually lost to Matthew Stafford and the Rams. You have Josh Allen, who won his first MVP award last week. We'll give a little bit of round of applause for there. Has won his first MVP award. The Bills have gone to the playoffs before. They have done well in the playoffs. They've either lost in the divisional round or they've made it to the championship game where they've ultimately lost there too. And then you can't disqualify Lamar Jackson either. Two-time MVP, was named Offensive Player of the Year at the NFL Awards. I argued that he probably maybe should have won MVP this year too, but that's the conversation for a different day there. And if you see this, sorry, I'm just stretching out my leg because I was sitting on it for a while there. So there's already 4 elite quarterbacks. There's still Tua in there. Tua's not as good as the other 4 that I just mentioned, but he's still a good quarterback. So you can't rule him out as being good. Trying to think if there's any other quarterbacks in the AFC that I missed. Oh, Bo Nix, the rookie as well. I know he didn't have as good of a season as Jaden Daniels did, but still, he looked very promising for the future of the Broncos franchise. I think he's going to be a very great franchise quarterback for the Broncos, and they were really lucky to hit the jackpot with him. So I say you can put Tua, you still have Bo Nix, rookie. If you can develop him, he's going to be awesome. Trying to see if there's any other AFC quarterbacks that I'm missing currently. I think we'll leave that at those 2 for now. Oh, CJ Stroud. I know CJ Stroud kind of went through a slump this year, but what he did the past 2 seasons again has been amazing. I'm sure he'll get over the slump, as people have called it as well, and come back stronger than ever. So, but you kind of see where I'm leaning towards there, right? You have the AFC with a 2-time MVP, first-time MVP. I don't know if Joe Burrow's won MVP before. I want to say he has to have had at some point. So there's like 4-time MVPs. I know Patrick Mahomes won MVP once. So there's a 5-time MVP awards between the 4 quarterbacks there, the 4 elite quarterbacks that I listed. Whereas where you go to the NFC, I don't remember the last time an NFC quarterback won MVP award. Last year, Jalen Hurts was in the mix for it before the Eagles kind of went through their slump. Brock Purdy was in the mix for it at one point before the 49ers lost to the Ravens on Christmas Day, which I think did cement Lamar's victory there. Dak Prescott was in the MVP conversation at a moment in time too. So was Matthew Stafford's been in the discussions as well, but they've never won the award before. And that's why I say is that while they are very great players and they are they excel at their jobs and their positions and with their teams, the talent just doesn't really equate to the talent on the other side. Now, is that fair for me to judge and to say? It probably isn't, but it's something that we do have to be aware of and conscious of. But I'll leave that there for now. Maybe we can do another episode where we break down MVP awards by year and see how the talent stacks up against the two conferences or whatnot. But that's just something to maybe just to think about and ponder over in the future or in the moment, I guess. But let's talk about these two specific quarterbacks. We have Patrick Mahomes, which I'm looking at my little sheet of paper where I like to write notes on into here. Patrick Mahomes, this is a regular season recap. So in the regular season, he threw for 3,928 yards with 26 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Pretty good. Jalen Hurts in the regular season threw for 2,930 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. 100 yards, 1,000 yards less shy of Patrick Mahomes. It's 8 less touchdowns than Mahomes, but also he threw for 6 less interceptions. So when you throw for less interceptions, that's something that will always catch your eye. Now here's the other thing. Saquon Barkley, the running back for the Eagles, had 345 carries on the year, ran for 2,005 yards. Over 2,000 yards. That's impressive. That's very impressive. I don't think any other running back in the NFL ran for as much yards as Saquon Barkley did. And he also ran in for 13 touchdowns. So now you see why Jalen Hurts had 1,000 less passing yards than Patrick Mahomes. He had a very good running back beside him who ran for 2,000 yards. That's not necessarily a bad thing, not necessarily something that you can criticize Jalen Hurts for. When you have an elite running back, as you do want to give him the football because he can make plays and he can run. It's very hard for defenders to tackle and stop the great running backs when they have all the power in the world to run the football, advance the football, and use the speed and agility that bigger defensive players don't really possess. Same with Derrick Henry, for example. Derrick Henry is a really, really good running back as well. Didn't have high numbers as Saquon Barkley, but it's hard for defenders to stop him. And that's kind of the same thing with Christian McCaffrey last year on the 49ers. The 49ers knew how to use McCaffrey. They knew what he brought to the table as a running back. He also proved to be a really good wide receiver when he wanted to be at times as well. And I fully believe that Saquon Barkley, if he was asked to catch the football as a wide receiver, he could do that and still run the football 10, 15 yards. So with that, that's kind of the quarterback analysis of things. Patrick Mahomes is phenomenal. I say that as a Carolina Panthers fan. He just is phenomenal. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks in the league right now. And you can't deny the fact that he is really, really good. I I would I would but I would say as a counter argument, I've heard the discourse and I've heard the stuff about how the Chiefs get away with a lot of stuff and calls go into their favor. To keep it very simple and very short for you people who are not interested or have heard this a million times already, I can't disagree with the fact that the Chiefs do get called in their favor. That's just how it is. That's just how the game is. Is it fair? No. But at the end of the day, they're still a really good team, whether or not they get calls or not. I am hopeful, though, that the Super Bowl will be evenly reffed. And when you have two really good teams, hopefully they will be judged and critiqued fairly. When I say critiqued, I mean if you call a lot of holding calls on the Eagles, then you'll have to make the same calls for the Chiefs. And if you call pass interference on Chiefs players, you have to call pass interference on Eagles players too. If you see it, you just have to. Will that happen? I don't know. That's just my hope, though, for referees on the biggest stage in football. You have to call, you have to make calls and calls both ways. It just can't be heavily favored for one team and not favored against the other team as well. We want to see good football. We want to see efficient football. But most importantly, we want to see football where everyone is called out for, and judged for their penalties just as much the same as on the other side. So with that, guys, I have to make my Super Bowl predictions here. It's hard for me to say. I already mentioned before, I think the Eagles have the better team with the running back, with the wide receiver duo. AJ Brown did catch for over 1,000 yards on the season. Jalen Hurts is a great quarterback, and the Eagles have a very good defense. They have the whole package here. But with the Chiefs as well, if I had to choose the quarterback who would come in clutch when it matters most, we've already seen Patrick Mahomes do that before. We saw it in last year's Super Bowl when the Chiefs and the 49ers tied it at the end of regulation, ascended to overtime. Patrick Mahomes was the better clutch player when it mattered most, and that's why the Chiefs went on to win. But it's going to be a good game. That I know for sure. I think we're in for a real treat. It's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a closer game than what some people might think, but I can't argue against the Chiefs right now. So that is my prediction. I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they're going to three-peat. I don't feel good picking them because I know everyone's tired of seeing them in the Super Bowl already. But when you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, when you have one of the greatest tight ends with Travis Kelce, their partnership is kind of the same as the partnership between Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, but they have really good chemistry together. I think, if I'm being honest, I think that the way it's in the script right now is the Chiefs go on to three-peat, but I don't know. My gut tells me it's going to be the Chiefs. My heart tells me I just want to believe that the Eagles can end the NFC drought of not bringing home a Super Bowl title / victory. But I guess we'll know tomorrow, Sunday. Oh, I'm almost out of time here. I was going to try and make this short, but the halftime show is Kendrick Lamar. If you've never heard of Kendrick Lamar before, you are missing out, but he is a hip hop artist. He just won Song of the Year, Record of the Year at the Grammy Awards. He's a really great artist. He is my favorite artist in music at the moment, and he has been for quite a while. But that's the halftime show performer. Tune into that. I think if you've never listened to Kendrick Lamar's music before, there's a perfect opportunity to get your proper introduction to him. He puts out really great music. He's a really great entertainer. And he said that the vision that he sees for the Super Bowl is just storytelling. And I love a good storyteller. Just like with Usher last year, I thought Usher did a great job with his Super Bowl performance. He gave us some classics, he gave us good music, he was busting out the dance moves as well. And Rihanna 2 years ago prior, again, great performer, great songs, great musicality overall. So I think Kendrick Lamar is going to provide the same thing for us. And I'm excited to watch that. I can't believe I almost forgot to talk about the halftime show, guys. But halftime show, Kendrick Lamar, Super Bowl 59 tomorrow. Kansas City Chiefs versus Philadelphia Eagles. We're either going to see the Chiefs three-peat or the Eagles bring home their first Super Bowl win. And I believe it's been in over a decade. So be sure to tune into that if you're interested. Like I said, I think it's going to be a closer game than what we all think, but who knows? Maybe one of these teams will decide to play their best football this season and then completely dominate. That's all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching this. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify, I really enjoy talking sports. I enjoy talking football. This will probably be the end of the football episodes for a while at least, now that the football season is coming to an end. But I'm sure we'll have other sports stuff to talk about. We'll have golf. The golf season is currently happening right now. Maybe we'll do a few golf episodes. The NBA is still going on. We have a lot to talk about there. College basketball stuff. I'll find things to talk about. But that's it for me for now. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And I'll catch you on the next episode. And most likely tomorrow when I do my 1 year anniversary special. Bye, guys.